Wipe the eyes, Gregory. Maybe get a little yawn in. We are recording this episode very early on in Feast Week. I am your host, Carter Elliott, and my co-host, Greg Waddell. This is another episode of The Unscripted presented by the Field of 68. And we are doing our first podcast episode with Michigan State, ranked in the AP Top 25. Not sure if you knew that, Gregory, but we are the official podcast host of the number 12 team in the nation. And I think we got something to do with that, to be honest. A lot of positivity coming from our side.
Yeah.
Can we get ourselves a little pat on the back?
Look, I'm not saying I deserve all the credit, but I mean, if we're talking about like what's changed since last year when there were 2 straight seasons of losing basketball for Michigan State, pretty straightforward that I just decided to be positive and all of a sudden the team's really good. The moment that I snapped my fingers and said I'd be positive. I'm just saying it's a data point. I don't know. Let's keep monitoring the situation, but it's worth noting.
As much as I appreciate your positivity, Greg, I'm not even going to chalk it up to that. I'm going to chalk it up to telling it like it is, because this team is fun. This team is good. This team has some guys that we did not think were going to do this coming into this year. And it's been a pleasure to see up until this point. A lot of guys with that chip on the shoulder mentality, they might have heard guys like myself, guys like you, guys on Twitter saying things like this team can't get it done. They're not talented enough to do certain things. And maybe that add a little fuel to the fire. And I think that starts with our head coach, who also heard all the chatter this summer about what this team cannot be. Again, it is early, but if you told me at this time of the season, when we talked about this preseason, that we would be 3-1, I believe it is. Yeah, 3-1, ranked 12 in the country, going into the PK, 85, I'm going to call it PK. I know I was supposed to say Phil Knight. I'd be ecstatic. So, but before we get to that, we got to talk about the game that got us there, that we attended, by the way. And that was a game at the Breslin against the once mighty Villanova Wildcats. And I say once mighty because one of my first takeaways of this game is that, yes, I know Cam Whitmore is gone. I'm sorry, not gone, hurt for this team. And I know they have some injuries, but this is not your mother's Villanova. Jay Wright is not walking through that door. Okay, so let's just make that known before we get into this game. But with that said, perfect opportunity for Michigan State to have a letdown in this game, coming off the big win. Playing at home, yes, that's good, but you don't want to have a hangover game. Villanova is still Villanova. They're still going to be the class of the Big East until, proven they're not the class of the Big East. That's just how it is. So it's a good win for us. Got dicey at the end, but overall, I was very, very proud of Michigan State's basketball team with that game, and also proud of the turnout of Spartan Nation because the Breslin was rocking.
Yeah, Breslin was slapping when Jaden Akins threw that dunk down. I felt like it was 2003, and Shannon Brown was in that gym. Look, people are going to be surprised by this, but I'm a college basketball diehard who loves this sport probably more than I love anything in my life except for my wife and my future child. And I've been going to Michigan State games since the moment I could walk. I forced my way into that building just to watch basketball and experience it. And I think this is not a diss because Michigan State always has good crowds, even in the down-ish years. But the last 2-3 years have not felt excitement in that gym the way that I felt in this Villanova game. And it does bring me back to like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, when it seemed like Izzo was going to the Final Four every single year. And that was just the expectation. That seems like it's back. And I think the big picture is there's excitement for next year with that big recruiting class. But the short term is everyone on campus, the students, the fans are rejuvenated by the idea that, oh my God, this team can do it. And that goes for the players and the coaches themselves too. It's really impressive. It was a fun environment to be in. I think your takeaway about Villanova is a correct one. I think I remember you and I looked at each other about midway through the first quarter and we're like, or first half, and we're like, this is not normal Villanova. Like even going back to the like Allen Ray, Randy Foy era, like this team just has less talent across the board than we're used to from that program, but still a good team. And I'm interested in getting to the end game with you here because it felt like a game Michigan State should have been up 20 the whole game, and they never really were. I think the closest or the most it got up to was like 14-15. And all of a sudden, 7 minutes left, you're like, wait, this is a 7-point game. And then all of a sudden, 4 minutes left, you're like, wait, this is a 4-point game. And then all of a sudden, 2 minutes left, you're like, wait a second, Villanova has a chance to take the lead here. And I don't know, like, it happens so fast, it's hard to point fingers at exactly what went wrong there. But when you talk about this could have been a letdown spot, in a weird way, didn't it kind of feel like it was a letdown spot? They just ended up winning the game. Like, it was kind of both. It was like we ran Villanova out the gym, but then all of a sudden we also almost lost to a pretty bad team.
Yeah, it was. So it's like it was a mini letdown instead of a complete meltdown. If we're just gonna kind of go words in that same category. I really can't even. And as you stated, like, we're watching this game, we're sitting in press row, we're watching this game. Obviously, we're up there, just basically taking in the basketball game. And I remember turning. I forgot who was next to me. I didn't get his name or anything, but we were kind of just like kicking it the whole game.
You and him were boys by the end of that game.
Yeah, we were boys.
We were hugging this dude.
Yeah, if he somehow sees this, like, that's my guy. I couldn't like get his name or what he was doing because he was like pretty into the article that he was writing, which from the the kind of peaking time I was doing on it, it was a pretty good article. But yeah, we were just looking. I'm like, oh, God, like, why are we only up 7? Like, if you did not look at the scoreboard, we would be up 20 in this game. And it was a kind of a mix of a couple things. I think it was a mix of Eric Dixon going absolutely nuclear against us. And I think we kind of had that classic Michigan State 4 to 5 minute kind of stall on offense. But in fashion of what this year is about, we have a guy now who can stop that. And he's a transfer from Northeastern, residing from Westbury, New York. And his name is Tyson Walker. And he's a bad man.
Are you getting choked up talking about Tyson right now?
No, I'm getting choked up that Ricky Council has a ratchet. That's what I'm getting choked up about. But but no, Tyson Walker's I retweeted the Kim Kardashian tweet when she had her son. He's here and he's perfect and we love him. And he's a bad man. He's someone who's going to have the ball in his hands down the stretch. And Greg, if we go back to our first episode of Unscripted, one of the things that you brought up was who is going to be the go-to guy down the stretch for this basketball team. And I think that answer is Tyson Walker, is it not?
No, the answer is Tyson 100%. And look, the MSU Twitter's on our heads. Surprise, surprise. That won't be the last time that happens this season. But I find it interesting. We're getting killed for our Tyson Tum question last year. I call it that because that's what it was. Like, I asked after the Thanksgiving tournament last week, so basically a year to the day, except we were a week later in the season. I asked, would you rather have Tyson Walker or Tum Tum Nairn running point for this team? And that was last year. And, that was not meant to troll. It was not meant to stir controversy. It was a genuine question that I, as a basketball viewer, had. Like, I sent it to you and our other 2 friends in our group chat that we talk about hoop every day. And they're all Michigan State fans in there. And nobody snapped at me like it was a horrible question. Everybody, like, I think we were split. I think one was like Tyson and 2 of us were like, we'd take Tom. So I put it to Twitter just to see what people would think. And like, I couldn't believe how many people jumped on me defending it. And it's funny because this year that happened, but not with Michigan State with me. I've been crapping on Jalen Llewellyn because Jalen Llewellyn's horrible this season. And I had to deal with a week at the beginning of the year of Michigan fans saying, shut up, he's fine. And now 2 weeks later, they're with me. They're like, oh, no, he's not fine. So, like, let's just remember, like, whenever we put something out there, it's not for clickbait. It's not to criticize. It's genuinely whatever we think, see, feel. And Tyson was really, really bad for many stretches last year. He started showing signs of life late. He kept you in that Illinois game. I mean, he was a killer in that down the stretch. And I think all of us were like, why can't he do that all the time? This year, he's doing that every game. This year, he's hunting those shots. And I think part of it is Izzo has pushed him into a role. I give Izzo credit for it, that suits his strengths more instead of trying to run the engine that is the Michigan State offense. And I think he's comfortable and he's going to play that role. You're right. I think he's the closer on this team from start to finish this season. And I think he's going to thrive in it. And you've got a big time shot maker that you didn't have last year, even though the same guy was on the team last year. Now you got one.
Right. And I think another takeaway I kind of had from this game, and I actually want to get your thoughts on it, was, you know how last year everyone kind of used the balance word with the Michigan State team? Like, and I think that everyone used the word balance, but it's a different type of balance that we have this year. Last year, it was balanced because we didn't really have anybody who could score the basketball. Like it was balanced because we didn't have a choice for it to be guys who just weren't good and weren't basically hitting shots. This team is actually balanced with like good guys who are capable of having like 3 players averaging, double digits instead of having one guy last year like Gabe Brown. Like it's more so that we're balanced in more of a good way. Like it's not a forced balance. We have players who are able to score the basketball. Joey Hauser had another really good game. Newsflash, Joey Hauser's good. And every single episode, we're going to have 10 seconds where if you need to find yourself saying bad things about Joey Hauser, apologize to him for those things you say, because Joseph Jamal is Himothy, okay? And he deserves his credit. He is a all Big Ten caliber player. I will scream that on every episode until the end of the year. Just want that to be known. Malik Hall, great game as well. Cut down the turnovers. AJ Hoggard, near triple-double in this game, but still kind of finding his way offensively. But another game where he's stuffing the stat sheet and he was even able to hit some threes. If we would have got some production out of the center position in this game, who knows what this game could have been.
So hold up before we go to center, because that's a whole conversation we got to have. But before that, so first of all, Jamal Hauser is his name. As far as I'm concerned, he is Jamal Hauser. He's no longer Joseph Jamal Hauser. He's not Joey Hauser. He has earned Jamal Hauser. I give him credit for it. There's a Joseph Jamal in the state of Michigan right now. That's Joseph Jamal Baker. He's going through the growing process that a good Jamal has to go through. And we'll see if he earns the title of Jamal Baker by the end of the season. For now, he's Joseph Jamal. He's got to prove it. He's inconsistent. Jamal Hauser's here to stay no matter what happens. So I hope that you honor that with me. I know you were a big Cormac guy last year. You played the name game. I hope that we can move on and have a new name game this year. AJ, to me, I got to go back. I got to go back to my Curbelo comp card. And I don't know if this is crazy or not, but I'm still getting big time Curbelo vibes, because I thought AJ did some really, really good things in this game. I thought it was his best game of the season. Obviously, he hit the jump shots, and that won't come every game, but it came this game, and his jump shot is much improved from last season. That's clear. He was never going to hit 3 threes in a game last year. I thought he took good shots for the most part in this game, but it's interesting because the Curbelo thing to me makes more sense than it did when I said it a week ago now, in that even when AJ is good, which I thought he was good in this game, we're still sort of left acting like it was an underwhelming game, because we've realized this Michigan State team doesn't need to or necessarily want to win through AJ Hoggard driving the car, right? And that's where, like, the only situation I can remember in recent memory that sticks out like that is Curbelo at Illinois last year. It was the Curbelo show all offseason, and it was the Curbelo show for the first 2 weeks. And he was erratic. He had 1 to 2 great games mixed in with 3 to 4 stinkers. And all of a sudden, a month later, it was like, oh, this team's way better with a different identity. I think that has happened already. And I don't mean that as a shot at AJ Hoggard, because I don't think AJ Hoggard's as toxic of a personality as Curbelo is. But I do think AJ all season long is going to have to struggle and figure out, like, where does he fit in with this? Because I think as fans, our expectations need to change with him, that we don't want Hoggard being the guy. We don't, like you said yourself, he almost had a triple double in this game, and we're acting like, he was better. He wasn't great. Like, maybe that's great for AJ Hoggard. Maybe that's the best we're going to get from him this year. And maybe that's all we should ask for, is like hit 1 to 2 open shots a game. We don't need you to score 20 playing bully ball to the rim, because now we got Tyson Walker killing. And like, it's a good thing for the team that this development has happened so quickly, but it's so different than what we all expected in the offseason, when we were saying Hoggard's the best player and this is the best backcourt and he's the reason why. Like, no, he's not the reason why. And I'm still really fascinated to watch what happens, because this was the first game of the season he was on the court in crunch time. And I think you would have seen this because we were sitting right next to each other. Did you see the moment where AJ turned it over and Tyson got real visibly snappy with him as they went back to the tunnel? Yeah. I mean, and look, this program can do that. Like, that's the culture that Izzo has fostered. Accountability. You can call each other out for mistakes and love each other 1 minute later. So I'm not saying there's issues, But I found it real interesting that Tyson was like, what the hell are you doing that visibly? Because Tyson never would have done that a year ago. Tyson was way too scared to act like it was his show a year ago. Now he's not scared to do that.
Okay, what I will say is, let's not say that was the exact reason that Tyson was getting upset, because I feel like it was Izzo was yelling at him because he was blaming him for the turnover, and he was like, "No, it wasn't my fault. Like AJ did what he did." But with that point said, that was one of the greatest unscripted roller coaster rides for me emotionally, because when you started that and said Andre Curbelo, I was livid, and I was loading the unscripted burner and ready to let that thing sing. Okay. But once you got towards the end of that, it became clear. Like the point was that you were trying to make was great, because we don't need AJ to be that guy for this team to be good. Like if you hit a couple open shots and you like, average your 7 assists, and maybe you put in like 8 points a game and just cut down the turnovers, make a couple open shots that you have, which he did that last game, and don't turn the ball over, that will be fine. It's kind of knowing who you are and what our team needs. This basically can go two different ways. You in middle school and elementary school, you always see that picture where it's a fork in the road and you can go two different ways. You can go the Curbelo route and go somewhere and go be that guy and go transfer to St. John's, or he can realize that he has some guys around him and he can play the role that he plays and still be that. He can still be AJ Hogarth, still be himself, but within the team, within the system, doing what he does to help this team win. And that's the other pathway that he could take. And, I think he is going to take that pathway because, as you pointed out, though he has some similarities mentally, he's a little different than Andre Curbelo, I think, just toxicity wise. Is that the word? Toxicity?
Yeah, you're right. AJ to me is like so much of what the Michigan State program is wired like. I don't think there's any chance he ever were to transfer, do something, unless he took like a grad year or something. But I do think there are questions like I don't know. I got to bite my tongue on this. Curbelo had a little delusional I'm the guy to him. I do think AJ has some of that. And whether you call it delusional or not.
But I don't want to cut you off. I'll let you finish, G. Sometimes you got to have a little, just a pinch of delusion. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you got to have that.
No, you're 100% right. It's one of the most powerful things in basketball, can be like having the edge that you need the ball and you're the guy. And the thing is, there has to be at least some level of rooted in reality with it. And I think we don't know how much of that is there for AJ yet. I think that's the beauty of the season. We're going to figure it out. Right. But I don't know. I swear I'm not just doing this to tease, but like in the middle of this conversation, when we're kind of like, he could go the Curbelo route. Now it made me think of this. Realistically, Tyson and AJ both could come back next year. Right. And so could Jaden Akins. So could Holloman. So could Jeremy Fears. There is no way all 5 of those guys are on a team together next year. No chance. But let me ask you this right now. If Tyson Walker comes into Izzo's office at the end of this season, based on how he's looking right now, let's say he plays the whole season looking like that. Tyson Walker says, I want to come back. You're taking Tyson Walker before you're taking anybody, right? Like there's at least a chance that maybe it's not Tyson who leaves at the end of the season, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could go small ball with some of those guys, though, I think, too. Like, I still see a path to Jay Akins at the 3.
5 guards on one team would be insanity, though. Like,
that would, yeah.
Fears is going to play. And
yeah, I'm pretty sure Tyson's not coming back, though.
Maybe we should want him to come back, though.
I would love if he comes back.
He ain't going to the NBA. Come do an Eli Brooks 5th year.
Yeah, Eli Brooks is in school for about 7 years.
What? And maybe if Michigan State's lucky, they'll get Tyson more. I don't know. I'm interested to see where this goes, is all I'm saying. But it was good to see AJ make some shots. I'll say that. Like he finally had the statistical impact in the game that I think he needed to see happen, and he got to be on the court in crunch time for it. Which, shit, Cart, was that part of the endgame problems though? The fact that AJ was on the floor.
I don't know. I don't want it to always be the scapegoat when something goes wrong on this team. We go to AJ though, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I don't want to get to that point.
You're right.
But speaking of reasons why this team might have came back, Eric Dixon, wow. did not know that man had that. Maybe he doesn't have that. Maybe the only reason he had that is because Michigan State centers put up a whopping, what stat for that again, Gregory?
1 point and 3 rebounds combined in 40 minutes. Well, less than 40. I think they went 4 minutes of true small ball without a center. So 36 minutes combined for Jackson Kohler, Carson Cooper, and Mady Sissoko. 1 point, 3 rebounds.
While Eric Dixon proceeded to have 25 and 7.
I think it was 27 and 9.
Sorry, 27 and 9. Don't let me sell. Do not let me sell him.
He was torching. I thought he was going to hit the game winner too.
So did I. It looked good from where I was sitting, but I think it gives us a chance to take a step back a little bit here. There was a lot of victory laps. There's a lot of apologies to Mady, which I still stand by that he deserves. I still think that his play the last couple of games and what he has done, he deserved an apology for some of the things that were said to him as a basketball player, even from me personally. I feel like I crossed the line a little bit on what I said his basketball level is. But with that said, this is we're gonna get some games like this from Mady. Unfortunately, I don't think this is a one-off thing, and I'd be interested to know what you think of this. Like, I don't know if this is gonna be a one-off thing. I think we are gonna see ourselves getting some of these games from Mady throughout the year.
Big sis, right? We're probably gonna get some. We're probably gonna get some games from Big Sis that aren't great. Big Sissington. Also, while we're on the big man nicknames train here, I mean, there was a lot of big dicks energy going on from Eric Dixon in this front court. I'm just saying, 27-9, that's some pretty big dicks energy. So
basically Michigan State struggles with centers with dicks in their last name.
You could say. I think we kind of saw this coming. I think we talked about it on the last episode where we were a little skeptical, even though everybody else was real excited about it. And we understood why people were really excited about Mady after the way he looked in overtime and really the game in general against Kentucky. But, our stance was sort of like, hey, he did all of his good things when Oscar Tshiebwe was out of the game. And I saw it in person. I know you can watch it on TV, but it's just different watching it in person a little bit. Like, Oscar really had his way with Mady when he was in the game, and Oscar's going to have his way with everybody. So I don't hold that against him, but people claiming like, oh, Mady really proved himself against the best center in the country tonight. Not really to me. He proved himself that he could be a body when he's up against the backups from Kentucky and hold his own. And that still is more than we knew going into the season. So we'll take that. But there's a difference between serviceable body and, oh my God, Michigan State's got a center. Here's our next Tillman. Here's our next Payne. And there was some of that. There was some of that comment on socials that just made me roll my eyes a little bit, because let's give him credit for what he did in overtime. But we haven't seen that yet. And going into this Villanova game, you and I think, accurately worried prior to the game of the matchup, because you don't want Mady Sissoko chasing guys on the perimeter. You just do not want that. And I don't think you want any of the Michigan State centers doing that. But we did hypothesize that maybe this would be a Jackson Kohler game. Maybe this is a game where you're not going to get torched on low post touches. And we saw a little more from Kohler on the court in this game. I thought he got some run. Kohler's just not translating anything to the stat sheet right now. And I know it's not about stat sheet, but I mean, he's, even when he had a mismatch, which to me, if Kohler's on the floor for you, if he gets a little guy on him, you've got to get him the ball. And they didn't make a post entry to him once in this game, even though I thought he worked for good position. He doesn't have the trust to get those touches right now. And he doesn't have anything defensively because he's too small. So that leaves you in a spot where you're begging Mady to play the whole game. And Mady can't guard players like Eric Dixon. If that wasn't clear enough, he's not going to be able to guard anybody that can step out and play on the perimeter. So to me, you would have liked to see from this game, I think there's a world where at the end of this game, we're not questioning anything about Mady Sissoko, even though Eric Dixon went off. We could have came in here and just been like, oh yeah, it was a fine game. We still got our center. If Mady had just made him pay a little bit offensively, right? Because if you really are a center in the Big Ten, that's Mady Sissoko's size, and you're going up against a perimeter-oriented stretch 4 type big in Dixon, and he's killing you, you got to make him pay on the other end. And Mady's unable to do that from everything we've seen. Like, and the touches they're not giving to Kohler, they're giving to Mady, but he has no move. I mean, he has 0 low post scoring ability other than catch ball, dunk ball. And
Right.
he'll get
And
those.
in last game, just before you go,
Yeah, you're good.
when you get mental, like we talked about mentally, how he processes things on the defensive end. There's also a mental aspect to the offensive side of the game as well. Finding yourselves in the right spot, being able to mentally focus and catch the ball. And one thing I saw last game in the first half, especially, is that because Nova's a smaller team, they're switching everything. So Mady's getting guys like Chris Arcidiacono on him, and he's doing that little turnaround jumper that's like fading away from the basket when he could literally just overpower him, power up and go up strong with either hand. He like you said, he doesn't really have an arsenal right now. And I don't know that Arsenal's ever he might never have an arsenal. Like some players go their whole career without getting an arsenal, but that's fine. But, at the same time, he's going to have ineffective games like this because not only does he not really have a go-to move out of the post, he's not necessarily a great passer out of the post as well. So it can lead to struggles on the offensive end, especially because I know a coach like Izzo likes to throw it inside a little bit and see what guys can do.
Yeah, and I'm sure he worked on that element of his game too. Like, it's not like there hasn't been the effort there. And look, all in all, he's greatly improved, right? Like,
yes,
last year you couldn't put him on the floor at all and trust he wouldn't dribble the ball out of bounds, fumble it off of himself, or totally miss a defensive rotation. Right now, you don't have to worry about any of that. But I think there's going to be a lot of games this season where you need production from the center spot, because I don't think it's a given that everybody else plays great the way that everybody else played great in this game. And especially against a team who, like Villanova, doesn't have that inside presence. Like that's where you would hope your 6'10" center can make them pay. And you probably know it's better than anyone from just playing the position in college basketball, right? Like, when you're a center, you have to, one, be in the right spots, which we've talked about with Mady, we have concerns about, but two, like, offensively, in order to earn trust, you have to know how you can score, right? Like, in order to even get in a position where your teammates are going to get you the ball, like, you have to establish that, oh, I've got a left-hand hook, I've got a right-hand hook, I've got a drop step, I've got a post fade, I've got a elbow jumper, or I can step out to the 3. And we've joked about this with you in general. Like, you're a shooter, right? Like, every big thinks they're a shooter, but like Mady even attempting these fadeaways to me is like, what is going on? Because there's no way anyone wants him shooting that shot. So, like, to me, I don't even know how Mady like wants to score the ball when we're passing it to him. I think like the only way that I trust he can score the ball is when someone throws the ball up high and he can catch it and dunk it on the way down. We know he can do that, but that's not on him to create. That's on everybody else to create for him.
Right. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the second coming of, Joel Embiid or Hakeem Olajuwon, but you make a great point. It's about feel. Like, you feel a guy leaning on you, you make a move baseline. You feel a guy that is kind of backing off of you, you make body contact, you back him down, you feel which way he's going, you do, shoulder fakes, left, right, things like that. Guy like myself, I know I was undersized a little bit, so I would get the deepest post position possible. So I didn't really even have to make a move. I literally would just catch it 2 feet from the basket, turn around, and do a hook, and do like a baby hook. Like, that's what you got to do. It's things like that I don't know if he's there yet. But the thing is, he's way farther along than we thought coming into this season. So I don't really want him to necessarily be an offensive arsenal guy. Like, I'm not expecting that throughout the season. Like, that 16-9 game, I don't think that'll ever happen again.
Only thing is, though, like, we can come here and you're right. You're accurate. We can say he's way farther along than we thought he would be. Isn't 1 and 3 what we thought he would be, though? Like, I don't think we can really downplay that. I think that's kind of like just putting rose-colored glasses on and ignoring the reality of what happened in this game. Like, Villanova was in that game late because no one could guard Eric Dixon. That was primarily Mady Sissoko's problem. And he added nothing offensively. Like, Michigan State won this game 4-on-5 in a game where Villanova's only working element was their center torching Mady. And That's essentially what we said in the offseason. So like, I do want to say you're right. In general, Madi's further along than we thought, but at the same time, like if he's going to do this ever, that is what we thought in the offseason. And that's scary for Michigan State heading into a tournament like the Phil Knight thing this week.
Right. And, Greg, thank you for giving me that absolute lob of a transition to lob, into the transition into the Phil Knight Invitational. I'm going to go ahead and take this easy layup, unlike Zach Wilson, who had the easiest question of all time this week and decided to dunk it and block it. I'm going to catch and finish on this one. Looking ahead to the Phil Knight Invitational Feast Week. What a beautiful week, first of all. I just want to take a moment to recognize the greatness that it is, as I have Maui on my other screen over here, and I will be watching Arizona later tonight. Looking at the field here, we got North Carolina, Portland, Villanova is on the other side of the bracket, so might find ourselves playing them again at some point. Iowa State, Oregon, UConn, and then Michigan State will be playing Alabama on Thanksgiving night. What do you think about this matchup?
I mean, I'm very excited as a fan to watch it. I like the NATO style of basketball. I like the run and gun, the threes. I think it can lead to wide ranges of outcomes. Like if Alabama plays well, they can beat anybody by a lot. And if Alabama plays poorly, they can lose to anybody by a lot. So I think Michigan State honestly is the team that we know what to expect from at this point. Like I think Michigan State's going to show up, do their thing, grind the game, be gritty defensively, win in transition, and all in all, like be themselves. Alabama could either shoot 60% from three or they could shoot 10% from three. I don't know. I know Brandon Miller's looking like a lottery pick talent. So I'm fascinated to see how Michigan State handles that matchup. I would like to know who you think is going to guard Brandon Miller, but I also think this could be another game for Madi where it scares me a little bit because you got to be able to chase on the perimeter against Alabama. Mm-hmm. And we'll see if he's capable of doing that this time better than he was against Villanova.
Yeah, and that'll be on Nate Oates to make a coaching adjustment because I believe they start Bediako at center, which doesn't really scare me as a matchup for Madi. I'm not sure what else they have in the rotation, or they could go small ball. I know they have Darius Miles Jr., but I believe he's been hurt for most part of the season. But going back, Brandon Miller and Malik Hall is the matchup of this game for me for two reasons. One, Malik's going to have to check him on the other end, and Malik has to do a great job of making him work. Like Brandon Miller, yes, lottery talent. He's a freshman. This is his third or fourth game. This is probably his first real game against real competition. I'm not sure if I've seen Alabama's full schedule, but I know they played a couple games against the likes of Liberty and such. So this might be their first real game. So if you can get a guy like Brandon Miller in early foul trouble, if you can make him work too on the defensive end, I think that'll bode well for us. I like the matchup of Mark Sears, the transfer from Ohio, and Tyson Walker. I'm not really necessarily worried about that. Don't want to undersell it. This is a good Alabama team, but I think this is a winnable game for Michigan State in which we match up pretty well.
I think every game on the schedule is winnable. Let me just say that. Look.
Say that again.
2 weeks ago, I said that Michigan State was going to lose 15 games, and their best case scenario was to sneak into the play-in. I think they can beat any team in the country now. Like there shouldn't be a game you look at that's like, oh no, like I'm worried. Michigan State probably should win every game on their schedule right now. I'm in a little preseason pool where you got to pick champions of all these preseason tournaments. Michigan State is my pick to win this tournament. And I might.
Why the hell was I not invited to this?
I'm sorry, I should have. But I kind of contradicted what I'm going to say in a moment, because the game that scares me most is not Alabama. The game that scares me most is the second game. And I know you think it's going to be Oregon. I think it's going to be UConn. And Adama Sanogo is basically Mr. Pibb, Oscar Tshiebwe. So I guess we shouldn't be too worried about that for Madi. But I think UConn's a team that when you play the second game on a back-to-back, they scare me. Like you get through the first test. Everybody thinks Alabama's the bigger test. But in reality, I think this Alabama team's really unproven. And last year's Alabama team wasn't very good, even though they had a lot of talent. This year's team has less talent. And they're playing transfer portal roulette, my favorite game. Like, can anybody tell me if Mark Sears is good? I don't know. I guess we'll find out after this game. Like, is he good for a transfer? Or is he good for a point guard? I have no idea.
Tune in next time to find out.
Nobody knows, right? So I think Michigan State beats Bama, and I think they might pull away big, honestly. It kind of feels like if Bama doesn't make shots, they're in trouble. I would worry about the second game because I think once you get through Bama mentally in a tournament like this, you're probably like, oh, we got this. And then you're kind of looking like, oh, we might get UNC next game, right? And all of a sudden, UConn comes up and bites you. And UConn has had success in these tournaments in the past. So I think the winner of UConn Michigan State is my pick to win this tournament. I think whoever wins that will beat North Carolina in the final. But if Michigan did lose to UConn, they're getting Villanova rematch, which would be fun. Wow. Would an Eric Dixon round two?
I mean, would it really be that fun? Like, no way you're trying to see that again.
Is Cam Whitmore healthy? If he's healthy, I want to see that.
If Cam Whitmore is healthy, I definitely want to see it again. I definitely would want to run it back. But who knows? I mean, I don't know.
You don't want to see give Madi, like, can Madi do better this time? Like, just point blank, can Madi do better against Eric Dixon? Let's find out. That'd be fun.
If I'm ranking teams I don't want to see, Villanova's like 4th on that list.
Okay.
I like the notion, the route you're taking with playing UConn on a back-to-back. Like, UConn is the typical team, and this is not just thinking back to, like, you know, obviously like those Kemba teams and things like that. When it comes to like back-to-back or like tournaments like this, like UConn loves to win those. Like that's what they do. So it's definitely a team I don't want to see. I think I'm interested to see what they'll do against those 2 7-footers from Oregon. I love Kiel Ware. And Father Dante blocks everything that comes to the hoop.
No Nate Biddle love from you?
Yeah, they got 3 7-footers. I kind of love that energy. I know Matt Painter's very jealous, but yeah, I think Oregon will be an okay team. I think Oregon's going to win that game against UConn, though, because I'm not sure if Jordan Hawkins is playing for UConn yet. I'd have to check and see if he's back. But looking ahead to this bracket, if I had to call it right now, I do think that Michigan State makes it to the championship game, and I think they lose to North Carolina, though.
See, I would just like to say very clearly, I think if they do get a game against North Carolina, Michigan State will win that game.
Wow.
I'm out on Carolina in a big way, just in general. Like, you know my take on this. I think last year they were a mediocre bubble team that played out of their mind, and it makes way more sense to frame North Carolina this year as if you just watched the Ryan Nembhard dunk, didn't you?
Yes.
This is, for the record, we're recording this during the end of Creighton, Arkansas, and this is like the game of the year. Just wait 20 seconds. You're going to see Arkansas hit a 3, and it's tied now. So,
damn it, Greg.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's impossible when you're making faces like that while we're trying to wrap an episode. It's damn near impossible.
Sorry.
No, but I think Michigan State's just a better team. I think North Carolina is the bad team they were last year, but no one wants to admit it. They've struggled in essentially every game this season so far. So, yeah, give me the Spartans if we get to that point.
I think it would be very fitting, though, for us to get to that game, play North Carolina, and then 2 weeks we open up Big Ten play against Northwestern, and we just pull a classic. Just lose against Northwestern.
This team's too good for that. I feel confident in saying that.
Well, you know, I think it's going to be a fun episode regardless. We're going to have a lot to talk about. I think we'll probably record an episode after the Phil Knight Invitational, probably early next week. And then we'll be into Big Ten play shortly after that. So we're gonna get right into it. Gregory, any closing remarks?
Great job, Michigan State. I'm proud of you. I don't feel like I went into detail on the chemistry stuff this episode, which we don't need to. We did some of that on our Sleepers channel, but I still I am blown away by the chemistry of this team and how clearly they play for each other and their coach. And I think this has the makings of a very, very special season. I'm incredibly jealous. I would love if the FBI could get their shit together and investigate the travesty that is happening in Ann Arbor right now. We need to shut this program down. I'd like sanctions, quite frankly. I think, let's get them on probation for at least 4 to 5 years. And make sure that I don't have to watch that team play any more basketball in the foreseeable future.
I love that tangent. Happy Thanksgiving to all the unscripted listeners out there. Don't be that family member that puts raisins in random dishes that don't need raisins.
What are you thankful for? What's Michigan State basketball theme? What's one thing you're thankful for?
I'm thankful that they give me an enjoyable product to watch, regardless of win or loss. I'm thankful that they gave me a team I feel like I can connect to. Like I love this team.
Wow. I'm happy for you. I'm thankful for
I
Jamal
love this
Hauser.
fucking team, man.
I'm thankful for Jamal Hauser.
I am too.
He's great. I mean, he's great. Never seen the dude win you an NCAA tournament game, turned first game of the season, the whole fan base turns on him again. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Just no one's ever going to turn on him again. He had 2 straight games. Jamal's here to stay. I love it.
Hashtag Hauser all Big Ten. Unscripted episode. We're out.